everyone, and welcome to Life as a Med Student. My name's Nabeel and I'm a final year medical student studying in Liverpool in the UK. So a couple of weeks ago was my last day at the emergency department at Southport Hospital. In the 2 weeks since then I have had my final med school clinical exams and I've changed hospital and I've also changed specialty. But in this video I'm going to be reflecting on the state of the hospital when I left 2 weeks ago. So Southport is a hospital that's considered part of Liverpool, which is in the northwest of the UK, and it's consistently had a high rate of COVID infection. The Liverpool and Southport area were in the highest tier of restrictions prior to the full lockdown that we're currently in. Being a medical student, sort of getting experience in A&E during the time when the country essentially went into the second wave of COVID was it's a really sort of telling experience. To be honest, I felt like it crept up on me around October time. Cases were rising, but the tier level of the tier system in England hadn't been introduced yet, and there were maybe 4 or 5 people in the A&E department that might have been positive for COVID, and I certainly wasn't pressured into seeing them if I didn't want to. And what actually happened was I had a 2-week period where I wasn't based in the emergency department at Southport. I was instead based in the children's A&D department, and I had a week in intensive care as well. On my last day at the children's A&D, one of the consultants from the main A&D department who was helping out that day was telling me that earlier that week they almost had to declare what they'd call sort of a critical or a major incident in the emergency department, because there was an evening where they were almost overloaded with patients and they were struggling to move people into rooms or wards in the hospital. And the consultant that day was telling me that they were almost unable to even get patients out of ambulances once they arrived at the emergency department. So when I returned to the Southport A&E department, I only had a couple of weeks left there. The change that I experienced was drastic. There were mornings where the emergency department was essentially just at capacity. Every single bed space was in use. The thing is, we were struggling to move people from an A&E bed into a ward where they'd normally be looked after by, say if someone's coming in with lung problems, you'd take them to the respiratory ward. If they'd come in with stomach problems, you'd take them to the GI ward, the gastrointestinal ward. But the wards in the hospital were suffering from breakouts of COVID. These are wards that are meant to be free from COVID, and if they're having breakouts, they don't want to take any more patients in there. Usually around the afternoon time, when some of the medical doctors had a chance to come and look at more patients that we currently had in the emergency department and were able to sort of say, actually these people probably might not need to come into hospital, we'd find that in the afternoon things would ease a little. The team in the emergency department were doing incredibly well. The final week that I had there, I can't remember any days where we were at capacity, where we weren't able to move people to where we needed them. But by that point, the thing was, if you remember, I'd said earlier, there might have been 4 or 5 people who had positive COVID tests in A&E. Well, by my final week, that was probably over a dozen, and certainly more than a couple of occasions. Obviously by that point as well, we had access to these 45-minute tests where anyone that the doctors have decided needs to stay in hospital will get a COVID test done and we'll get the results back for that in 45 minutes. Having access to that probably played a part in seeing the higher numbers of COVID patients that we were seeing in A&E. Now, having moved away from the A&E scene, it's becoming more difficult for me to gauge where hospitals are from a COVID standpoint. It's often discussed in the news at the moment that through the winter period, hospitals are in danger of again being overwhelmed by COVID and just added pressures that you always get sadly in the winter times on hospitals. But of course, in the 2 weeks since my time at A&E, there has been the amazing news of the vaccines that have been developed, with that news and hopefully the rolling out and administration of these vaccines in the very near future, the picture will hopefully change for the better. But for now, I think I, like countless other people, are just hoping that, you know, a page is about to be turned and we're going to be moving back towards normal as soon as we can. That's pretty much it for this video. Thank you for watching. I am hoping to sort of grow the channel and expand more, so I really do appreciate if you'd like this video and definitely subscribe to the channel for more content. Thanks for watching.